with Bishop Dale C. Bronner.
If you would open your Bibles, Proverbs chapter 22. Proverbs chapter 22. As you know, I'm teaching in a series entitled Rebuilding the Foundations. And oftentimes, if something ever gets off track in your life, you need to go back and figure out how the thing was originally designed and see what was it that we had in the beginning that blessed us so much. What gave us so much joy, so much peace? I mean, before we got all of the stuff, before we got sophisticated, is to be able to go back to the basics, that when we didn't have a whole lot of choices about what we could do, just go back to the basics. Sometimes you see that money doesn't make everything better. There are people that had it when they didn't have much money. They had actually better relationships, and they could come home and be with each other and love each other and not have as many distractions in their life. And so sometimes when things get off course, you have to go back to the fundamentals, back to the basics. And this is where I believe that we are. When you get too high there, every now and then, if you know, when children start acting like they have lost their mind, you know, mamas and grandmamas used to just shake them. Now, you know, doctors tell us today that that's not really safe, you know, because sometimes the brain is still developing and growing, and you could actually cause some brain damage by trying to shake some sense into them. I don't know whether they were trying to shake the devil out or shake some sense into. Maybe they were trying to do a combination of the two. But it is our effort to be able to go back and to lay foundations into the lives of God's precious people and do it right. Whenever you find something that's broken, go back and see how it was put together to begin with, and then you'll learn how to fix it. Oftentimes, I tell people the very things that we use in premarital counseling are the same truths that help to restore people who are having trouble in the marriage. You go back to how God designed it to be. And so we learn the building blocks of our lives by learning foundations. And every now and then you have to revisit the foundation so that we don't take them for granted and begin to build on something that is not a foundation, because our lives cannot grow any higher than the foundation which supports it. In Proverbs chapter 22, notice verse 1. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, loving favor rather than silver and gold. Now, let me just say the lesson that we learned just from that verse is that favor is not for sale. You cannot buy true favor. You can't buy favor. Now, and here's a principle that you learn from here, is that favor is better than money. Now notice this, a good name is to be chosen rather than great riches. In other words, it's better to marry somebody with character than a whole lot of money. You get somebody with a whole lot of money, if they don't have any character, they'll break your heart. And you can tell them they can take their money, because then they'll try to buy things and try to make up things where their character was so failing. And what will break your heart is to be with somebody who has no character, who has money but no character. Now, if you can find somebody with money and character, you better hang on to them. I'm just telling you, you better hold on. You better ask the Holy Ghost to help you to keep your mouth and do the right things and love them. Just love them. Because it's rare. It is really rare. I'm just telling you. But notice he says loving favor. It's better to have loving favor rather than silver and gold. Silver and gold was their money. He says it's better to have loving favor than money, than silver and gold. Silver and gold. It's better to have loving favor than silver and gold. That favor is better than money. And so you'll discover some incredible blessings that can come from God that are strictly the result of favor, and there's no other explanation other than to say that it is the favor. You see, when money is spent, it is gone. But that is not true with favor. That is not true with favor. Because your money can only do you so much good in certain places. But if favor is on you, favor, the favor of the Lord can bring you into wonderful positions in life. In understanding really what favor is, I want you to understand what favor is not. Favor is not for sale. You can't buy favor. You can't give people money and then buy favor. You can't. Now, if somebody does something similar to that and uses money to try to buy favor, you know what that's called? Bribery. That's a crime. We are not encouraged for criminal activity. That's a crime. So favor is not for sale. I want you to understand here, secondly, what favor is not. Favor is not material things. Because blessings are not things. Blessings happen to be the favor of God. When Abraham blessed his children, when Isaac blessed his children, when Jacob blessed his children, he was actually invoking the favor of God on his children. Blessings are the favor of God. When you bless them, you're actually releasing the favor of God on their life. You remember that Abraham was blessed with servants and cattle, but all of Abraham's servants are dead. All of Abraham's cattle are dead, but we are still blessed today by the blessing that was on Abraham. I want you to understand that if there's favor on your life, the favor that is on your life is bigger than you. It is also for your children. In the same way, if disfavor is on your life, it will also impact your children. And so realize that favor is not material things. You know, you look at a person with a whole lot of material stuff and you say, oh, that person is blessed and highly favored. No, they're not. They may be miserable with all of that stuff. There are people with stuff that kill themselves. There are rich people who kill themselves and live miserably and are hermits and have total dysfunctionalism in their home and in their relationships, and who are unhappy, and they have things, fine homes, flat screen TVs, imported Italian leather, and all kind of fineries, custom made this and marble that and granite this, and they are miserable with all that fine stuff. Because favor is not things. Favor happens to be the blessings of God. Here's a third thing I want you to understand. Favor is not crafted through skill. It is not a result of your skill or ability. It is not a result of your skill or ability. Now look at Ecclesiastes chapter 9, and I'll show you that, prove it to you in the scriptures. Some people think that because somebody's got great ability, that's why they have the favor. But that is not true. I don't know about you, but I know some people who haven't made it, and they can sing better than some folks who have made it. They've got great ability. I know people who can play instruments better than folks that's known who play instruments. So it's not a result of even our skill. Ecclesiastes chapter 9 and verse 11, notice. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to men of understanding, nor favor to men of skill. But time and chance happen to them all. Favor doesn't come to you just because you're skilled. Now that's not an indictment against skill. You ought to get all the skills you can. You ought to have abilities developed in your life. But you are not going to be favored just because you were the most qualified. I want you to realize how valuable the favor of God is. How valuable God's favor is. We discover God's favor, for example, in Nehemiah, in the second chapter of Nehemiah. Favor gave Nehemiah three things. He got this strictly because of favor. He got authority from the king because of favor. He got security because of favor. And he got resources because of favor. Strictly because of favor. Strictly because of favor. When he was going to rebuild the broken down walls of Jerusalem, he got papers from the king authorizing him to go and do the work. He got authority because he had favor. He didn't do it because he had money. He did it because he had favor. And then he got security because the king sent with him a security force so that he would be protected. And he had resources. He gave him materials to actually be able to go and work. And he got all of that because of favor. Because Nehemiah had been such a faithful worker who had such a pleasant attitude and great positive disposition on his face at all times, that when the king came in one day and he saw that Nehemiah was not smiling, he had been such an outstanding and exceptional worker that the king said, "What's wrong? This is not like you, Nehemiah. Something is bothering you." And then Nehemiah told him the story of what had happened, how he had seen the walls of Jerusalem and they were in ruin, and his heart was burdened for that. And the king gave him authority, security, and resources to go and build that work. He didn't have any money, but he had favor. He had favor in his life. And then you see a favor in the second chapter of the book of Esther, and the fifth chapter of Exodus. Esther. And so favor made Esther queen, and it gave her grace to be able to stand as an intercessor for her people. That was nothing but favor. It wasn't really her beauty, it was favor that was on her life. There are a lot of beautiful women in the world. They don't all have favor. They don't have favor. Favor also is a shield of protection. It is a shield of protection. Make a note of it. Psalm chapter 5 and verse 12. Favor is a shield of protection. It's just God's favor. Sometimes you all have been in accidents, and other people have been killed and have been left with limbs that had to be amputated and all kinds of things, and you get in an accident and God lets you walk away. That is favor. It is just favor. Favor is a shield of protection. Favor is also designed for a lifetime. Psalm chapter 30 verse 5 lets you know that. It is designed for a lifetime. It's designed for a lifetime, but it's not a guarantee. It is not irrevocable. It is designed for a lifetime, but you can lose it. And then favor makes us strong by not making everything easy for us. You discover that in Psalm chapter 30 and verse 7. Favor makes us strong by not making everything easy for us. You know, it is favor that does that. Favor that does that. I think we need to look at that. Look at Psalm 30. Look at Psalm 30. Because sometimes, you know, you think that if you have favor, that means that God's going to put you on easy street. And people who are on easy street are weak. Notice Psalm 30, verse 7. Lord, by your favor, you have made my mountain stand strong. You hid your face, and I was troubled. See, favor doesn't mean that everything will be easy for you. It means that God will use favor to actually bring strong circumstances against you sometimes to actually build strength. If you didn't have adversity or resistance in your life, you'd never have strength. It takes strength to deal with adverse circumstances. That's why God didn't make it for you to just live where everything is always hunky-dory. And I don't know who gave us the juvenile impression that if you do the right things and serve God, you'll never have any trouble in your house. That you'll never be trouble in your spirit. Who told you that? You get false expectation, and then something goes wrong in your life, and then you wonder, Lord, what did I do wrong? And it's not that you did anything. Maybe God made your mountain strong before you so that you'd build muscles climbing it. I understand the scripture. I know about faith. I've taught it for years. I know what it means to say, speak to the mountain and be thou removed, but there's some mountains you're going to climb. Now, trust me. Just trust me. I know the word. I understand all of that. You go, there'll be some things you be trying to speak to it, and I guarantee you that there are some trouble spots in your life that you be trying to speak to, and some of you are still speaking to it. And maybe God designed it so that it actually preserves your life. There was one man that he was in his 90s, and his bedroom was upstairs. It had preserved his life in great aerobic shape because he didn't have his bedroom on the main level. And he had to climb the steps every night to go to bed, go down and going up and down all during the day, and he would be grumbling and complaining. Oh, I'm getting got all these steps in this house, give me an elevator, And little did he know that every time that he was going up the steps, that cardiovascular muscles were being strengthened in his heart. And this old man was blessing himself to be healthy and strong well into his 90s because of the aerobic work that was happening going up and down the steps. And he'd be grumbling, but he'd be actually be strengthened in the process, and his life was blessed. And all of his friends that he knew that were his age who had their master on the main were dead. So you don't always know what God is doing when he gives you a mountain, something, and he makes your mountain strong for you. Maybe it is God's way of showing his favor to you. If you never had a problem, you'd never know that God could solve them. You wouldn't know what faith and his word could do. It does not mean that God has forsaken you and that you're living in sin and this is going wrong because you had a challenge. Maybe it was a situation where God says, I wanted to give you a testimony. I wanted to show myself strong in your life. Maybe it was something where he had to root some things out of us, because sometimes if everything always went wonderfully well, we get wrapped up in self-righteousness, thinking that because I pray and I pay my tithes and I fast twice in the week, and we think that the blessings that are coming in us are because of us and not because of him. So maybe, just maybe, that God would leave some things in us, and we wouldn't see that as God's favor to us, but it is favor that God would strengthen a mountain before us. They are the mountains that actually shield us from the stormy blast. I've been into places, cities that are surrounded by mountains, and I tell you, the weather is ideal there. It couldn't be that much of a blessing if you didn't have mountains to deal with. The mountains keep tornadoes and hurricanes from coming in. They keep a pleasantness in the temperature. You go to Palm Springs, it's surrounded by mountains there. They have wonderful weather. Wonderful weather. You'll be surprised what mountains can do. And some people are standing around trying to speak to mountains to get out of their way, and God says, don't you realize I'm trying to protect you from something that would otherwise tear your life all to pieces? That if I didn't give you something here to be able to be a project in your life to develop you and to strengthen you, to make you strong, you couldn't do what I'm calling you to do. I wanted to qualify you to see whether you could stand the test, and I could trust you in something where I needed a strong person. Because God will call you to do some things, and not everybody will be with you. People will criticize you and attack you and mealy mouth, and they'll say that there's a better way, and they'll be attacked. And you got to be strong enough, because you've already stood against a strong mountain, to be able to know that I'm called of God and that this is what God has placed me here to do, and I'm going to do it even though public opinion may be against me. So he'll sometimes give you something that is a mountain in your life, and it is a result of his favor. The mountains will shield you. God hid Moses in the cleft of the mountain. You're in danger in a valley if there's a tornado. But in the mountain, tornadoes don't knock mountains down. God has a reason for every mountain. Don't you dare just think, I'm telling you, you look unto the hills, and you'll find that God will let you know that not everything in your life is designed to be on the same level. You get bored on the same level. If you don't go up a hill, you can't ever come down one, and you have your fun on your way down. And so there's a reason that God would strengthen a mountain before you. And I just want to let you know that it's his favor. You see, I have a different perspective of things that I read in the scriptures. Some people have a mountain, and I've seen some folks that don't understand the full dynamics of faith, and they spend their whole time trying to talk to a mountain that God designed to protect them from a stormy blast. And now you have just spoken and moved your protection out of the way. So favor makes us strong by not making everything easy for us. You know, I look back in my life now. I grew up, my daddy had 6 sons, and he was a stern disciplinarian. And we didn't appreciate it then, but we appreciate it now. I mean, with my daddy, you didn't get an allowance. He didn't come up from a generation, you didn't pay people to do nothing. I mean, it's like you just like this welfare, like a retirement check coming in or something. No. My daddy was taught, you work and then you get paid. So he gave us opportunities to earn money. He never just gave us anything. He didn't want to make his sons weak, making us have an idea that we were entitled, that the world owed us something, like somebody was just going to say, oh, you here now, let me write your check. And I didn't appreciate it then. I mean, to me, Daddy looked like he was just parsimonious, stingy. And I just thought he was tight. Daddy wouldn't give you, and we just rather go without than to have to deal with his mouth. Anybody ever know somebody like that? You go to them and try to get money. Just like, well, shoot, I don't even have the energy. I don't even. You will discover favor brings mercy. Isaiah chapter 60, verse 10. Favor brings mercy. It brings mercy in your life. If you ever need mercy. Favor brings special privilege. Daniel chapter 1, verses 9 through 14. It brings special privilege. Remember the Hebrew boys? They asked for a special diet. They said, listen, we don't want to eat what everybody else is eating. And they said, no, wait, we don't know nothing about what you all are doing. But they asked for special privileges, and they actually got it because God's favor was on them. God favored them. And favor brought provisions and a husband to Ruth. Ruth chapter 2, verse 13. It's because Ruth had the favor of God on her. You know, she had Naomi had another daughter-in-law by the name of Orpah. Most people look at it and call it Oprah, but it's Orpah. And that girl, she left. She got out of Dodge. She left. She said, your son is dead now, and I'm not hanging around here. But Ruth clung to Naomi. And she said, your people shall be my people. Your God shall be my God. And she said, I'm going to stay with you. And because of that, favor came on that woman's life because she was giving herself for an unselfish purpose because she was trying to take care of an old widow. The Bible says that pure religion that is undefiled before God is to take care of widows and orphans. And here she was involved in something that was an act of selflessness, and it brought favor on her life. And God blessed her with a rich husband that was able to take care of her and her mama-in-law. It brought provisions and a husband to her. Favor brings material blessing. Exodus chapter 3, verse 21 and 22. It really does. Exodus chapter 11, verse 2 and 3. It brings material blessing. Exodus chapter 12, verse 36. It actually brings material blessing. Favor brings promotion and authority. You'll find that in Genesis chapter 39, verse 21 through 23. Acts chapter 7, verse 9 and 10. Favor brings promotion and authority. And then favor continues in perpetuity. It continues in perpetuity. Exodus chapter 1, verse 5 through 8 and verse 12. It continues with your descendants. It doesn't just stop when you die. You don't want favor that just when you die, it runs out with you. You want it to come on your children. You want it on your grandchildren. So favor continues in perpetuity. That's the way God designed it. Now, please make a note of this because some people, I think, get this spooked out notion about favor that if I've got favor on my life, I will not have problems. Favor makes no such claim that you will not have problems. What favor does say is that problems won't have you. When you've got God's favor, it does not mean you won't have problems. It does mean problems won't have you. So you can see a favored person. You show me any person in the scriptures who had God's favor in their life, and I guarantee you I can show you where they had problems. Abraham was blessed, but Abraham ran into problems. He was scared for his life, had to lie about his wife being his sister and all this kind of stuff. He had problems. He was favored, but he had problems. He had children that had issues, and he was favored. So if you ever go back, favor does not mean that you will not have problems. Favor means that problems will not have you, but you will have problems and be blessed and highly favored. So don't get it twisted. It doesn't mean that there are no problems in this person's life. That's a wrong idea.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Until next time, God bless you.